I'm Heather Briggs of My So Quilty Life. Welcome to my channel. I am so happy you're here. I've got a fun video planned for you today, so let's dive in. Today, I'll be talking about my new block, So Lucky. This cute shamrock block is part of my new block of the month called Year of Spools. Last month, I released a block called So Loving. You might have seen it, and I also did a tutorial. It is with a heart with a spool inside of a heart block. I had so much feedback and wonderful comments and requests from you all, and you wanted to see if I could create a block of the month using the heart block, and then every month for the year have a spool themed block. So I decided, after very little thought, that would be something that would be so much fun. So I quickly rearranged my schedule. I quickly designed all 12 blocks just to see if it was something I could do or would enjoy. And I'm happy to report that we're doing it. Guys, we are gonna do it. We are gonna have the block of the month. Every month I'll be releasing a fun spool inspired block for that month. This is March's block, so it's a shamrock, so think St. Patty's Day, and then it has a spool. Every month I will release a block. I don't exactly have a set schedule, but it's going to be fun. It's going to be mysterious. You won't know when I'm going to release the block until a couple of days. Now, my newsletter subscribers will get to know when those blocks are going to be released. So if you're not on my email list, go ahead and sign up. I will leave a link below in the description for you to sign up with that. My newsletter is a lot of fun. Each month on the 1st or around the 1st of the month, I release a newsletter that goes over happenings that happened the previous month. I give really good sneak peeks for my next upcoming patterns. I also have a ton of coupons and I share a lot of different things. Now, if you are an email subscriber and you get my newsletter when I release each block, you can save 15% off each of the blocks for a small amount of time. So that's just a fun way that I can give a little bit back each month with my newsletter. So make sure you subscribe. It is a lot of fun. So I'm excited to do this tutorial for my So Lucky. I'm gonna get that mixed up because every month it's like So Loving, So Lucky. So if I say So Loving, I mean So Lucky. So it's a tongue twister, but I'm going to go ahead and start with the tutorial, but I just thought I would show you this cute shamrock block and then talk a little bit about the block of the month. Now, I will have more information releasing. I have a blog post that kind of goes over it a little bit, but I'm going to be releasing a ton of more details about the block of the month, as well as frequently asked questions and a little bit more about the settings. So the fun thing with this is each of the blocks are a low price PDF only, not a paper pattern, PDF only on my website. And at the end, in December, I'm going to be giving away for free, so you don't have to pay for the settings, a ton of different settings to set all your blocks, or if you didn't love all of them and you collected maybe 4 or 5. So think table runners, bags, pillows, quilts, 9 block quilts, 12 block quilts. I am planning to make the entire 12 block calendar quilt for the Year of Spools, but I'm also using the blocks I make in my tutorial and just the extra blocks I make to make pillows and bags and table runners. So just remember that each month you will pay for the block, but at the end, it will be completely free for the settings. And then I will also, since I missed January's block because this just started and I want a complete set for you guys, I plan to release the January block in December only because it's going to be winter themed, and it's kind of weird for me to just all of a sudden have a winter themed block in the middle of spring and summer. So I hope you understand. Okay, let's go ahead and get started on this adorable shamrock block. Okay, so you will need the pattern from my website. I'm going to add it in the description below, but you can visit mysoquiltylife.com, and under PDF patterns, you'll be able to find last month's block, which is So Loving, and this month's block. But because it is a PDF, I kind of want to show you how I use PDFs. So I will sometimes print them out, but for the most part, I just use my iPad. And sometimes I'll put my iPad lock screen so that it doesn't lock the screen, so I'm not constantly having to type in my passcode to get back in. But this is the pattern. This is how I use a digital pattern. This can go for any digital pattern. I just download it and save it to my files on my iPad and or computer and either print it or use it this way. But because this pattern is just one block, I don't really feel like printing it out. So I just have my pattern downloaded on my iPad, and then I follow along with the instructions. Then I can save paper and I don't have to worry about storing a pattern. So it's a lot of fun. I know some of you really prefer a paper pattern, but unfortunately, I'm just not going to release a paper pattern for these. I'm just going to have them strictly as a PDF on my website. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. I'm so excited. Okay, so we have our pattern. I'm going to set it to the side so I can follow it. And we're going to start with the cutting. So I went ahead and cut out all of my pieces. Here, I'll remove this block. I went ahead and cut out all my pieces that I needed for this quilt. You can kind of see here. I also labeled them because there are a lot of pieces. A through P, that's a lot. I know. I love to make and design quilts that have a lot of pieces and a lot of small pieces. I apologize. But I love using these marking tools by It's So Emma. They're called Alphabetties. I love using these. And so I just go through and cut all of my pieces. I will link these below, just in case you have no idea what those are. I went ahead and cut all my pieces according to the pattern, and then I labeled them. And then on step 1, you're going to be drawing a diagonal line on the back of C, on the back of D, F, H, and L. So I went ahead and drew a diagonal line. Now I use diagonal seam tape most of the time, but I wanted to go ahead and show you the diagonal line. So when I am working through each step, you can see how the diagonal line, which way it's facing. When I do cut out my pieces, I love to put them on a design board, so this doesn't really shift. I mean, the pieces will, or the labels will, but not the fabric. I just made this out of foam core, and I hot glued some batting scraps to it. I know that Fat Quarter Shop and Lori Holt have a video showing you how to make it pretty with binding and everything, but I just like just a clean slate, and I can throw these out and not feel like I spent a lot of money or time on making these. So I have several. I might do a video showing you how to make these, but they're super simple and a lot of fun, and I love to have my pieces all together that I can bring back and forth to my sewing machine and ironing board. So we're going to go ahead and get started with step 2. All right, I'm going to just put this to the side so I can grab my pieces easily. Put my pen bowl over here. Okay, so what we're going to do first is we're going to be placing fabric F squares on the top corners of the I rectangles. So I have my eyes here, I have my I rectangles here and my F squares. And what we are doing, I'll put these to the side, is taking one I and 2 Fs. And what we're going to do is place them in the upper hand corners, diagonal line facing this way, and we're going to stitch on our diagonal line and then cut a 1/4 inch away and discard the excess. And then you're going to press according to the instructions, and it has you pressing towards fabric F. So I am going to go ahead and do that really quick on all 3 of them. So you're going to make 3 of them, and I will be right back. Okay, so I have just finished what we're going to call our I units. So I've got 3 of them here. And now we're going to be moving on to step 3. So we're going to be taking the remaining 3 fabric F squares. So we've got 3 remaining because you started with 9. And then we're going to be taking our fabric J rectangles. So we've got 3 of those. We are going to be assembling 1 fabric F to the top left corner of all fabric J's. So you're going to sew on your diagonal line, press. You're going to be pressing in this time towards fabric J, because when we assemble them to our I units, we want to make sure that those seams nest nicely so we get a perfect point. So I'm going to go ahead and assemble these, stitch on my diagonal line, cut a 1/4 inch away, discard, and press. So I will do that and I will be right back. Okay, so I just completed step 3 and now I have my 3 J units completed. So again, we are pressing towards fabric J so that when we sew these together, they will nest nicely. And I'll show you that when we get to that step. Something I really like about my patterns is I include the measurement after each step of what each unit should measure. Now, this is really helpful for those of you that like to cut bigger and then trim down so that you eliminate any kind of errors or mistakes, or if you feel like your seam allowance is not accurate. I know a lot of people will do that. They'll make the unit bigger and then cut it down. So this is really helpful, and it's also really helpful. So if I have just a little bit of these little bits and pieces sticking off, I can trim it down and make it a clean unit. So it's something I love about my patterns, and I know that you guys do too. So let's move on to step 4. So we're gonna set these guys aside for now. We'll just set them up here. And for step 4, we're going to be needing our M squares, so M, these big ones, and then our L squares, so these ones. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to take one of our M fabrics and 3 L's, and we are going to be positioning them, one in the upper right corner, one in the upper left, and one in the bottom left. It is important that you pay attention to your diagram, making sure that you do position these here so when you sew it all together, it is 100% perfect and how it is supposed to be. So I'm going to assemble all of my L squares to M, sew on the diagonal line, cut 1/4 inch away, discard, and press according to the instructions. Now the instructions have us pressing out the top 2 towards fabric L and the bottom 1 towards fabric N. So make sure, fabric M, not M. Make sure you pay attention to that when you are pressing. This is so that all seams nest perfectly. So I'm gonna go ahead and assemble all of my M and L's, and I will be right back. Okay, so I just finished step 4, and here we have our M units. We have our M units here, so we have 3 of them. There we go. All going the same direction. Now I did again press this L square into fabric M and the other one's pressed towards fabric L. This is so when all the units are sewed together, they will nest nicely. Okay, so let's go ahead and start on step 5. For step 5, we need our I unit, our J unit, and our M unit. So let me put these to the side. So we need our I unit and our J unit. So you can start to see these clovers come together. So what we're going to do first is we're going to assemble J to the side, press towards the M unit. Then we are going to assemble the I unit and press towards the I unit. So I will go ahead and make these 3 clover leaf units. So again, we are just assembling J to M unit and then assembling the I unit. So I will go ahead and do that, and I'll be right back. Okay, I just finished step 5, and here we have our clover leaf units. We got 3 of these. They turned out so wonderful. Now we're going to be moving on to the stem and spool block. So for step 6, we are going to need fabric E rectangles and fabric N. So we get our fabric N, and then we will need E. And I will put these to the side. What we're going to be doing is taking fabric N, taking our fabric E, and assembling them to the sides of fabric N. And then you're going to be pressing in towards N. So I will go ahead and do that, and I will be right back. Okay, I just finished step 6, and here we have our N unit. You only need to make 1 of these. Okay, so we're going to set that one aside, and we are going to be using fabric O and K. And in the instructions and in my original block, I used the same green fabrics for this, but I decided it would be fun to maybe make it more of a rainbow, almost like a Lucky Charm. You know that cereal Lucky Charms? That was my favorite growing up, and I thought it would be really fun to do something different with these pastel colors. So just a reminder, if you want it to match your clover, you're just gonna cut 3 of fabric O, which will match your dark color M, and then 2 of fabric K, which will match your light green. So just a reminder. So what we're going to do is we're just going to be assembling all these together, all the O and Ks, and then we're going to be pressing open. So I'm going to go ahead and do that for all of this, and then I will be back. Okay, are you ready to see my spool middle unit? It is so cute with these little pastel colors creating a rainbow. So here it is. And it's not laying flat, obviously, yet. You're going to press open. I had my clapper on it, but I'll put it on it a little longer. But it'll lay flat. It's just right now not laying flat for you. So what we're going to do is move on to step 8. We're going to take our fabric G rectangles, and assemble them to the sides of our little spool middle unit. So I'm going to assemble those and press towards fabric G, and I will be right back. Okay, I just got done assembling fabric G rectangles to the sides of the spool middle unit. So step 8. So here it is. It's not laying flat right now, but it definitely will when it's all sewn into the block. I didn't want to wait, another 20 minutes to let my clapper really take that heat out. But here is my spool middle unit. So now we're going to move on to step 9. So I'm going to set this one aside. Step 9, we're going to need fabric P rectangles and fabric H squares. So this is going to be the top and the bottom of the spool unit. So what we're going to do is take both of these. So you need to pay attention to this part. We're going to be putting fabric H on the bottom and the top. Now I'm using the same fabric, but if you were using directional fabric, you would definitely want to do this. But honestly, since I'm using, just regular non-directional fabric, it doesn't matter which way, but just be aware of that when you are assembling these. So I'm going to go ahead and assemble on my diagonal line, cut the excess off, press, and then I will be right back. Okay, I just got done assembling step 9. And again, you're going to want to press towards the indicated directions, and that is towards fabric P, just so when we assemble this block here that they nest at these seams. So that's what I did here. So here we have our top and our bottom. So for step 10, we're taking our middle spool unit, and we are going to be assembling this adorable spool block. So first you're going to assemble the top. So what I like to do is really want to pay attention here, because these are the places right here that need to meet up so that you don't have a little bit of a gray sticking out. So what I like to do is take my pieces and I'll just eyeball kind of where I think my 1/4 inch seam will fall. So I'll line it up perfectly, edge to edge, and then that always doesn't work. So I like to check it this way too. I am giving a little pinch with my fingernail, and I'm going to open it up right there. So that's actually pretty good. If you can see that, that lines up pretty good. So I'm pretty happy with that. So I might go ahead and stick a pin in there just so I don't lose that. But sometimes at my machine, I will sew a little bit and then I will take it off and I will look. So I'll sew, I'll stitch along here, I'll stop here. Then I'll take it out and I'll look just to make sure the fabric didn't shift while I was sewing that, because it's very important that these line up, or else you're going to see that contrast of the gray with the white and how a little bit more of the gray goes out. So now I'm just going to look on this side really quick just to kind of see where we're at. Let me see if I can get a good angle here. And you see how we're a little over at the 1/4 inch seam. I don't know if you can see that, but we're a little over. So when I'm at my machine, I'm going to shift that a little bit and kind of pull it a little snug here while I'm sewing. So I'm going to go ahead and assemble both of these onto my spool middle unit, and I will be back with my completed spool. So I thought I would just show you just as a reference. So I had my pin in here and I just sewed just a little bit so that I could check before I got all the way across to realize this was wrong. And then I'm only having to pick out a little bit of stitches, but this looks pretty good to me. So I'm going to continue on, and I'm going to go ahead and put a pin in this side now. And then when I'm at the machine, if there's any kind of little bit of bulk here, I'm just going to pull it just a little bit. You see how that flattens? See, so it's not flat now, but then it flattens really nicely. So that's what I'll do at my machine. So I'll go ahead and line this up. So that looks pretty good right there. If you can see that, I don't know if you can see that, but I'm going to go ahead and put a pin in it. And then I'm going to take it to my machine. And sometimes I'll go ahead and start right here, leaving that open just to check again, because I don't want to stitch the whole thing and it shift on me. So I'd rather catch that seam with my stitches down here first. Then I usually will go over either all of it or back stitch here and here and go on. Now I know there are a ton of different ways to get accurate seams and accurate things lining up, but this is the thing that has really helped me become more accurate. And I know there are some of you out there also that this could be beneficial for you. So I'm going to go ahead and stitch that, and I will be right back. All right, so I wanted to show you something before I unpicked my stitches. So I must have shifted it along the way to my sewing machine, but I wanted to show you guys because I'm not perfect. Nobody's perfect. You know, this is not something that I'm going to stress about, but I want to make sure it looks a little bit better. So I'm going to show you. You guys ready to see my awful lineup of my seams. Okay, so here we are. So I know that to some of you that is fine. And you know, normally that would be fine to me. But because this piece is so small, and again, I didn't sew in between here yet, I feel like it's okay. I can pick these 10 stitches here and reline that up and get it to be where I really want it to be, like this one. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that, but I wanted to show you. I wanted to show you that, look, see, even I didn't have this correct. So don't beat yourself up over it. It's totally fine. Quilting should be fun. You should have fun. I'm having fun, and I'm gonna unpick this. And if you don't wanna unpick it, that's totally fine too. It's totally up to you. This is your quilt, your block. You can do it how you want. That's the fun of this. So I'm gonna unpick that. I'm also gonna go ahead and assemble the bottom, and then I will finally come back. I know I've been saying I'll come back with my final spool block. I will come back in a second with my final spool block. Okay, are you guys ready to see my spool unit? Oh, it is so cute. Okay, here she is. Look how good those line up. Pretty darn good. I'm also really happy with how straight my pieces are. Sometimes this can get a little wonky. I know you guys know what I'm talking about. I tried really hard to make sure that I sewed straight. Sometimes it can look a little crooked, but so, I mean, these are small pieces, so I can understand how they could come, you know, chaotic pretty quickly. But this looks super, super, super cute. Okay, so I'm gonna set this adorable little spool. I wanna make like a million of these and make like a quilt with those. That would be so fun. Do you think that'd be fun? Let's do that. Okay, so moving on to step 11, you will need fabric C and fabric D. So for C and D, you have your diagonal lines drawn right here. You can see them. We're gonna just cut on that diagonal line. I know that feels weird because normally we're stitching on a diagonal line, but we're gonna cut because we want 2 of these and we actually just want 1 of these. So we're gonna throw the other one in our scrap bin, not away. We're gonna throw it in our scrap bin. So I'm gonna cut those and I will be right back. All right, now I have my fabric C, what are they called? Square triangles? I don't know, they're triangles now. They used to be squares, but now they're triangles. So I need 2 of these for fabric C, and again, I only need 1 D. So we're gonna go ahead and throw this in our scrap bin. And now we're gonna move on to step 12. So I know this might feel, when you look at the instructions, like, whoa, what is this? How do I do this? But it's actually really simple. If you go slow, you read, and follow along with this tutorial, you should have no problem. So we are gonna take our spool block, make sure that it is right side up. I don't really want my rainbow to go this way, although that is kind of cute. So what we want is it to go this way. We're gonna take our in unit, assemble it to the top. So I'm gonna do that first, and I will press it according to the instructions, and I will be right back to show you what to do with fabric D triangle. Okay, I just finished sewing in unit, so step 12 in unit to the top. So here we have it. You're pressing towards your in unit here. Don't worry about this excess because honestly this is going to get cut off in just a couple of steps. It's going to irritate me that that's not laying flat. I promise it's straight. Okay, the next step is we are going to be assembling fabric D to the bottom. So we want it to look like this, but how we're going to do that is I like to do this. I like to fold my piece in half because we want to find the middle. I put a little crease there. You can kind of see my little crease. I will also do the same thing, if I can, to this one, just so that they're lining up perfectly. So I've got my creases there and my creases here. So now I've found the middle, and I'm just laying very carefully not to stretch this fabric D triangle out. I am just laying it on top, and I will give it a little pin here. And just another pin. You don't need to pin if you don't like to pin, but I'm going to do that just so I don't lose it. And we're going to stitch just right across with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So no different than what we normally do, except for I know this looks scary because we've got a triangle here. We are going to do that, and then we are going to very carefully press towards fabric D triangle. So I will do that and I will be right back. Okay, I just assembled fabric D triangle to the bottom, and then again the end unit on top. So now what we're going to do is we are going to go ahead and trim off the excess to make this a straight edge. So I'm going to do that and I will be right back. Okay, so now we're going to move on to step 13. For step 13, we are taking, so I went ahead and trimmed off my sides, and I noticed here I'm a little off, which I'm totally fine with because I'm just gonna catch that in my seam allowance. But if it was more than that, I would definitely go ahead and reassemble this. So what we're gonna do is we are going to take our fabric C triangle, so just one so far, and we are gonna lay it on the side. What you wanna do is you want the corner of the bottom of fabric C to go just below a 1/4 inch of that seam. So you see the seam here? We want our corner tip to go a 1/4 inch below. Now I'm just eyeballing it because honestly, when I cut it, so yeah, that could be good. When I cut it, I just want to make sure that I'm I just want to make sure I'm not less than a 1/4 inch, because this will be your seam allowance when you sew it together. But I'm not really that worried about up here, but I also don't want to sew way down here, right? So if you're a little off, it's okay. So I am just going to make sure that it's below, so a little bit higher. Let's just go a little bit higher. So that looks about right. So I'm going to go ahead and pin this in place. And then again, I'm just going to stitch with a 1/4 inch seam along this edge, and I'm going to press it towards the fabric C triangle. And I will be right back and we will do the other side. Okay, I just finished assembling that side. And while I was at the machine, I actually just dropped it just a little more just to make sure. A 1/4 inch seam is fine, but you may find that it might be a little short. So just go a little bit below. I'll go ahead and make that adjustment in the pattern to say, you know, go a little bit, maybe about a 1/2 inch if you feel the need to do that, just so that you're not picking out anything or having to redo anything. So I'll go ahead and do that. Again, I will make that adjustment on my website and in the pattern, but go ahead and just do about a 1/2 inch. I found is perfect. So when it opens up, I'll kind of show you. When it opens up, if I'm at my 1/4 inch seam here, you will have your 1/4 inch here that you can go ahead and trim off in half for your block. So we just want to make sure we have a 1/4 inch right here from the bottom to the bottom of the spool corner. And so now I'm going to assemble that side, and I'm going to press it towards fabric C triangle, and then I will show you how to trim this all up. Okay, so I just got done assembling the other C triangle to the side. So now we're going to do the part that everybody is probably thinking it is super hard, but it's not. So I'm going to show you exactly how to do it, but of course step 14 also tells you. So what you're going to need is you're going to need a, oh my goodness, I'm throwing things, a friction pin, or you're going to need to fold your whole unit in half, which I'll show you this way too, just so that you have it. Fold your whole unit, and this can be kind of tricky. You want to align seams like this, and you're just going to either give it a press or a finger press, but this can be a little tricky. So I'm going to go ahead and show you finger press. Try not to stretch out anything. So there I have it, finger press. So that should be the middle of my entire unit. So again, you can either draw a diagonal line down the middle, which I say to do in the pattern, or you can fold it. I'll fold it for the sake of this tutorial because I know a lot of you either don't have a friction pin or feel kind of weird about drawing on the front of your block, and I totally understand. So I'm going to use my friction pin though to draw around it before I cut, which is what I recommend, so then you're not making all of the block. But the things you need to pay attention to are your diagonal line, so here and here, and you need to pay attention to a 1/4 inch seam here and here. Now, if you want to go ahead, you can go ahead and trim your 1/4 inch seam here. So what you'll do is you'll just lay your ruler out and cut a 1/4 inch away right here from that bottom of that spool seam on both sides. But I'm not going to do that. What I'm going to do is take my ruler. So this is 6.5 inch ruler. You don't have to have a 6.5. Now what I recommend is that you do have a diagonal line on your straight edge as well as a 90 degree. So what I'm going to do is show you exactly how to do this, how you're going to cut down your block, and then you'll be moving on to step 15. So this is super easy. I know it probably looks complicated, but what we're going to do first is we are going to align our 1/4 inch seam. So on my Creative Gears ruler, I have a dashed line showing showing where my 1/4 inch seam should be. So what I'm going to do is just make sure that 1/4 inch seam hits that corner point. Can you see that down here? And then also my corner point here. At the same time, and this is where a drawn line might help, but I can see a little bit of my fold line here, and then I can see a little bit here. So now I know that this is where I'm going to trim. But first, so I'm not trimming and messing up, I always recommend this if you're a beginner, is I'm just going to very faintly trace around my ruler to make sure that I get what I need. And I can hardly see my line, which is fine. So I'm going to go ahead and trim that because that looks great. So go ahead and trim yours too. Don't be nervous. Again, just make sure you line up with either your diagonal line on your ruler with your folded line or your drawn line. And then these are very important. We do not want to cut these points off here on our spool block. So now I'm going to go ahead and give that a cut, and then I'm going to move on to step 15. Okay, here we have our stem spool block. This turned out super cute. Again, do not be scared of this step. It is super simple. Here's what we're going to do. We are going to be assembling all of our little clover leaves to our stem spool block. So you're going to rotate these like this. And what we're going to do first is assemble these two together and these two together and press open. Now, we've got 2 places on the top that things need to nest. They need to nest here and here and here and here. So we pressed accordingly so that those will nest. So all you have to do is get your block and push on the seams and lock it. We lock it. So let's look. So I locked it here. That'll be nice. And then I locked it here. That'll be nice when it's sewn. So go ahead and pin that if you need to so that your seams nest. You're going to press open, and here we don't have to worry about anything. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'll be right back. Okay, I just got back from assembling my units together, and oh my goodness, this is going to look so beautiful. Again, I pressed open here, but look at these seams. They nest perfectly. They look so great. This one does too. I am so pleased with this. So the last thing we need to do for step 15 is assemble the top to the bottom. And again, we have 3 places where we need to pay attention to things lining up. We've got this pressed open seam that needs to nest or line up. Then we've got these that need to nest and these that need to nest. So pay attention when you are assembling these or pinning these. I like to go ahead and pin in the center first because you might notice that if they're off. You'll notice that the seam line is off. So I'm going to go ahead and I don't pin in my seam. I know some people do. I just never found that it laid flat for me, and I always ended up with a shifted seam. So we're going to pin that, and then I'm going to move over to my white. Again, because these are nested, I'm just pushing just a little bit till it can't go no more, making sure that it is lined up at the top, and I'm just putting a pin in it. And then our other seam right here, we also want to do that. So we want to make sure everything is pulled tight and put a pin in it. So I'm going to go ahead and stitch my 1/4 inch seam. I'm going to press it open, and then we will be moving on to step 16 where we assemble fabric A and B. Okay, are you ready to see my So Lucky block? So I just finished with step 15 and it turned out so good. I just love it. My seams, my points, everything matches up perfectly. So now what we're going to do is I'm just going to trim off this little bit of threads on the outside, clean up this edge a little bit before I move on to step 16. But what I wanted to tell you is this right here is actually 12.5 unfinished. So if you have a project that calls for a 12-inch finished block, you could totally not sew on the A and B borders and use this in another project. That is the beauty of these blocks. Now, in the settings that I'm going to be giving away for free in December, I do have you using the A and B borders. So you can either wait and sew the A and B on at a later date, when you're putting maybe your project together, or you may find something else you want to do with it, or you can go ahead like I am, and I'm just going to go ahead and sew those on. So I thought I would let you know that just in case you have a 12-inch finished block that you would like to use in another project, you can use this instead. So I'm going to go ahead and trim that off, and I will be right back. Okay, I just trimmed off my little bit of edges here, so that cleaned up really nice. Now we're going to be assembling fabric B to the side. So we are on our final step. We're on step 16. So we're just assembling our fabric B to the sides, pressing towards fabric B. And then we will assemble fabric A to the top and bottom. So I'm going to do both of those because I know you know how to sew along your edge with your 1/4 inch seam and everything. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I will show you the completed block in just a minute. Okay, I just finished with step 16 and I assembled fabric B and fabric A to the sides. This is our last step, and I am so excited to show you my finished block. Are you ready? Okay, here it is. I put it on my design board so it stays flat. I like to also use my design boards after I finish block to just kind of flatten it out a bit, and when it stays on the design board, it stays flat for a while. But the block turned out so good. I love the addition of the rainbow. I love the 30s print I used with this green. This looks so good. And just for reference, here is my other block that I made for the pattern. So you see how that looks different, having the rainbow versus the ones that match the prints with the clover. So you can really decide how you want it. You can also make this one big solid color if you want, or just make it half on half, just however you want to do it. It's a lot of fun that you can play with this. I enjoyed making the rainbow. So guys, don't forget to go to my website at mysewquiltylife.com and get your So Lucky pattern. I have it here. Don't forget to get your So Lucky pattern so you can make this adorable shamrock block. Also, again, this is the March, a year of spools block of the month. So this is March's block. So I will link in the description below how to get this pattern. And I hope you enjoyed this video. I love doing these tutorials for my patterns. I feel like it is a great addition to a pattern when I can do a tutorial with it. And again, I will be doing a tutorial with every one of these block of the month blocks. So look out for my next one. I'll give you a hint. It's called So Hoppy. Oh my goodness. It is so cute. You're going to love it. So please like, share, and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss out on those other videos I have. Also, feel free to leave a comment below letting me know if you are enjoying this block or if you're sewing along with the block of the month. I really want to know. Again, I will link everything below that I had mentioned in this video. And I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for being here. I'll see you next time. Bye, guys.